Welcome back. You're watching ED Inside. When it rains sufficiently, it's not just farmers who celebrate. Marketers do too. A bountiful harvest puts more money in the hands of farmers and creates additional demand worth hundreds of crores of rupees for consumer goods. Nikhil Sivadas finds out what India Inc. is doing to tap this additional demand.
They say that work is its own reward, but 44-year-old Rajkumar from Kuttur village in Tamil Nadu holds out for the promise of more. With an income which varies according to the seasons, Rajkumar works 8 hours a day to provide himself with the basic necessities of life. But this year, thanks to the monsoons, his fortunes seem to have improved.
It's been 15 days since I sowed the fields. The crop is healthy. I expect to get more this season than the other seasons. As soon as this harvest is over, I plan on buying a TV or a fridge for my house.
Rajkumar may be one among millions thanking the rain gods, but to India Inc., he represents a potential that's waiting to be tapped. Experts say that the rural market, which comprises of 790 million people, is now worth over $425 billion. The rural income of this population is on the rise, and so is their ability to spend. Credit for that goes to a good monsoon this year, government-led initiatives like the Narega and the recent farm loan waivers. To top that, the branching out of around 42% of the rural population into non-farm activities like construction and services has also contributed to the growth of their income. According to the NCAER, at their present rate of growth, rural incomes will increase by 3,644 rupees every year for the next 5 years.
The improvement in the monsoon this year is a huge benefit for India. It takes a lot of the pressure off consumer prices, because the expectation will be a much better harvest, much better vegetable supply, which have been some of the factors behind the high CPI and the high PPI over the course of the last year. So inflation will come off, I think, relatively sharply in India, and that really improves disposable income rather than incomes per se. It means that Indians will have much more available money to spend on other things other than the essentials.
It is this available money in the hands of the rural consumer that is drawing attention from players across sectors. The rural economy contributes anywhere between 25 and 50% of sales of large FMCG companies. Over the past year, while the consumption of fast-moving consumer goods like shampoos and soaps grew by 23%, consumption of white goods like refrigerators, TVs and ACs grew by 15%. The telecom and automobile sector grew by 31% and 25% respectively. Given the thrust on rural infrastructure, cement and steel consumption grew by 12.5% and 10% respectively. It is estimated that rural consumption in India will double to more than $800 billion by the year 2020. With numbers like these being trotted out, India Inc. has the rural economy in its crosshairs.
Overall, the discretionary income in rural India has increased dramatically, which is leading to a very high growth in FMCG demand in rural India.
Rural is, I think, the next big growth opportunity for India, and we are really focusing on financial inclusion in a big way.
Idea as a company derives 40% of its total revenue from the rural consumer, and this percentage is much higher than what it was in earlier years, and it's now become a very significant and large part of the total pie.
We've got 65% of India that still lives in rural markets. We go where our consumers are. The consumers are in rural markets, and their consumption levels are low. A lot of them don't use our brands and our products. They don't use any of the categories. So there is an enormous scope, longer term, for us to build markets in rural.
It is this scope that is causing competition in the rural landscape. Players across sectors like FMCG, consumer durables, automobiles, telecom, steel and cement are out to grab a meteor share of the rural pie by widening their reach.
Marketeers are suddenly realizing that, the low-hanging fruit of urban India is drying up, and just as the low-hanging fruit of urban India is drying up, they're rushing into rural markets and trying to pluck the low-hanging fruit of rural markets.
We are seeing almost
25% of our domestic sales being accounted by the retail and semi-urban push.
As a matter of conscious choice, we've been moving more and more towards smaller towns, upcountry markets, because then there's no competition at all.
Maybe we'll start seeing after the first harvest is completed, maybe around November, December, January kind of time frame, when it will end up becoming better.
The preparation for that has already begun. Companies are making their presence felt in rural India through new and innovative ways.
We have, for example, a new platform that we created last year called Chaupal Hearts, where companies engage with rural consumers on this platform to showcase, to demonstrate, to sample, to communicate with the consumers there.
The idea is to actually connect with the customer emotionally, and the Swasth Tractor, Swasth Chalak scheme is all about that. So when a tractor comes for servicing, we not only service the tractor and we take care of the health of the tractor, but we also take care of the health of the driver by giving him basic medical attention, be it in terms of checking his blood pressure, his sugar levels, advising him through medical counsel.
We have a very great campaign going, what we call a rural van campaign process, which is, we already covered about 280 towns in few regions, which is a continuous process, and that itself, that's a very clear concept where the customer is he's accessing all products in a van.
From innovation to pricing strategies, companies are luring the rural consumer by offering customized products with low prices to match. This leads to an increase in volumes and lowers overheads for unorganized products. For instance, in the telecom sector, Nokia introduced a 2690, a camera phone with a mobile internet connection priced under 4,000 rupees. While Airtel partnered with Olive Telecom to launch the Olive Forever On, a dual power phone for under 2,000 rupees.
The non-stop road.
Adidas and Reebok increased their sales by 50% in the rural markets by reducing prices, while Philips launched a low-cost smokeless tub for the rural markets. FMCG companies too are tweaking their prices to go light on the pockets of the rural consumer.
We will bring to this country will be low-cost devices. We are working already on very low-cost devices to enable everybody to be there.
The low unit price packs on the soaps have done extremely well in last 2 months. We see a good pickup for these products.
We are looking at whether it's price point packs, SKUs, packaging, the entire gamut in terms of our offering strategy, and we hope to increase that component from 25 to 30% over the next 3-4 years.
That number is set to increase, as experts believe that the future growth of these companies is going to be driven by the rural consumer. To make that happen, companies are expanding their direct distribution, reducing the cost of intermediation and strengthening their supply chain management. All of which means the rural consumer will have access to a wider variety of products than ever before, much like his urban counterpart, thereby leaving him spoiled for choice.
Spoiled for choice indeed. In fact, so spoiled that rural consumption patterns have begun to change. That's coming up after the short break. Don't go away.